Welcome to another edition of Life is About More Than Living, a podcast. Um, this, af- this afternoon's topic is surviving the change and transition between jobs, a conversation with David Petrovay. Um, I believe it's a timely topic, especially in the climate we're now in politically, socially, economically. And I want to bring David on, Dr. David Petrovay on. He's the author of a book entitled Wow, that book's definitely got a hard, powerful title. Out of work, not out of work. Navigating the emotional side of a job loss. You can find his book with a link. Um, it's on Amazon, and the link is there in the text of this show. Also, this show is sponsored by my book, uh, which I thought I had laying. Yes, I do. Right at my fingertips. Split Souls and Transition, a poetry collection. This show definitely is self-sponsored. And as we go deep in this topic today, I encourage you to click the link associated with this, my link tree, and purchase your own copy of Split Souls and Transition, audiobook or paperback. N- Now I'm going to bring on today's show, Dr. David Petrovay. Welcome to the show, Dr. David. I'll keep it simple. Your last name. I struggle with pronouncing it, so uh, I don't.
Well,
I'm just let you dive into it and tell
okay,
what, who you are and what you do.
right. So you had it right at one point, Alfred. It's Petrovay, Dr. David
Petrovay.
Petrovay.
Okay.
And so that being said, let's start with what would you like to know about me?
Whatever you feel like sharing. This show is laid back. They can read the bio, but I prefer for people just to be personal.
All right.
Because you can text is easy. Personal is better. I think it lives more in person's memories.
So, yes, I was looking at, a set of questions that you sent me
Hmm.
and thinking about my life, where it began, where it
Hmm.
is today. And I love the title of your podcast, Life is About More Than Living. And I think my life is living proof that it doesn't have to be set in a way that is a carryover from the life that your parents lived.
Mm.
Because I look back at my growth back in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in the shadow of the
Mm.
steel mills. And
Mm.
my father was a career postal employee. So every day for 30 some years or more, he delivered the mail to people. And certainly was, a welcome sight, especially when he had checks to deliver. They loved seeing him when he did that. So I thought to myself, okay, there's his pathway. And then I looked at my relatives, uncles, cousins. A number of them worked in the steel mills. And I thought, there's got to be more to life than this, Alfred. And so I studied hard in school, graduated with honors from high school, then went off to the university. My first degree was from the University of Pittsburgh in 1970 with a degree in psychology. And
Mm.
my mother was fit to be tied because she said, "What in the world can you do with a degree in psychology?" Well, they
Mm.
told me you could either go to Vietnam or you could work retail as a buyer. So I thought,
Hmm.
well, there's not a lot of options there. So, because it was during the Vietnam War and there was a teacher shortage, I received a letter from the Department of Education at the university saying they were looking for people who would receive a fellowship to pursue a teaching career. So I did
Hmm.
that. And I ended up working in schools for the blind across the country.
Wow.
So that was
Wow.
my training. And then when it came to about 1981, I decided I wanted to get a second master's, this time in
Hmm.
counseling and guidance. Now you can see how these somewhat relate to one another. And because one of the things that I did when I was at the School for the Blind in Arizona was I was responsible for running their career center for blind students. And so I had to become really creative on the types of jobs that they could work their way into. So I did
Mm-hmm.
that for about 8 years. During that time, I decided I'm going to get a PhD. And so I went back. This was the University of Arizona. I was going to receive an award, they said, for the student who spent the most years getting a doctorate. I think I spent
Mm.
I think I spent
Oh,
8.
but by the way, Dr. David, we have broken a record. We have 13 live viewers. I usually get one or two
Oh, this is great. This is great.
on
So,
YouTube. On YouTube, yeah.
okay, hopefully people can identify with this type of a journey. Was
Mm-hmm.
it planned? No, it was rather organic. And it's not that I have anything against people who put together a solid plan, but for me, it seemed to go in the direction that was reflective of who I was as a person. And I find that I'm a helper. And what better way to help than work in education? So
Mm-hmm.
after 34 years of doing that, Alfred, I decided it was time to pull the plug. I loved working with the students, and believe it or not, I still stay in touch with my former students. And one of them just turned 52. Now she was a 10,
Mm.
okay, a 10-year-old when I was working with her as a student. And so what more rewarding experience would you have
Mm-hmm.
than to stay in
Mm.
touch with students? And they call me dad now. So that's an extra bonus there. And so then I thought, what am I going to do next? Now, here's the point where probably many of your listeners are at that pivotal point. What's next? Well,
Mm-hmm.
I had to look back on what I loved doing, and it was the career part of my job. And so I decided I was going to pursue working in nonprofits, and I did that. The first one lasted about 4 months. And I thought, no, they're really doing more of the control of my career than I would like. So I pulled the plug on them. And by the way, with a PhD, I was making $19 an hour. Okay.
Mm. That's a
Yeah.
lot of
So,
money back in the day, though. Back in the
well,
day, that was a lot of money. Yeah, back in the
yeah,
day, yeah.
but at that point, it was getting pretty close to what McDonald's was paying. So then I tried another job, and they paid a little better. I stayed with them for about a year and a half. And again, I had no creative license in terms of what I had to offer in that position. And what I learned was, and I think your listeners can identify with this, it's important for you to focus on what your values are. What is
Mm.
important to you in the work you do? For me, it was creativity and independence.
Mm.
And if the two weren't going hand in hand, I was not long for that world. So I
Mm-hmm.
decided, back in 2000, at the end of 2008, so it's now 17 years later, that I was going to start my own business. Now, I
Mm.
had no experience as a business person, never took a business class, had no idea what would be involved. But I thought I could learn this, and I did.
Mm-hmm.
So I, set up a business plan. I went and was certified in terms of having my own business.
Mm-hmm.
And I bit the bullet and thought, okay, I'm going to do this. Well, I will tell you, Alfred, that there were months where I had one client.
Wow.
And I thought,
Wow.
I am not going to give up on this. So I can also be very tenacious. And
Mm-hmm.
if you believe in what you're doing, it's important for you to persevere with it. And eventually it expanded into the work that I do today, and including the book that you talked about, Out of Work,
Mm-hmm.
Not Out of Worth. Initially, it was called Life Between Jobs, Out of Work, Not
Mm.
Out of Worth. And I belong to a writers group, and they suggested that I change that because it really didn't say what was in the book. But when
Mm-hmm.
it's navigating the emotional side of job loss, oh, this is going to be about what I feel when I'm unemployed. And so,
Mm.
how did that come into being? Well, back in 2013, I conducted a workshop for a group of job seekers. And the title of
Mm-hmm.
that workshop was Getting to Up from Down, Dealing with Depression During Your Job Search. And
Mm-hmm.
that was such a rich experience for me because the participants just gave me all kinds of feedback about what they faced when they were between jobs. So when it was over, I thought to myself, do I want to just continue to do these types of workshops, or is there something more to this? So I took that information, and by the way, I had used flip charts. So I had written documentation based upon what they said. So I took that to another workshop, and sure enough, it validated everything from what they had told me. And I thought,
Mm-hmm.
okay, what's next? A book. Now, had I ever written a book? No. The closest thing was writing my doctoral dissertation. And believe me, that was a stretch for me because I did not see
Mm-hmm.
myself as a writer. But I thought, okay, I can do this. And what I did was I hired a writing coach. And I would write so much and then take it to her, and she would critique it, say, this is what you can do to strengthen it. So we did that for the entire book. And then when it was ready back in like 2021, I put it onto Amazon. And
Mm-hmm.
again, it is something that clearly is important to people in their lives today. As you
Mm-hmm.
said, especially with what's happening in our world, not
Mm-hmm.
just in employment, just in every aspect of life.
Mm-hmm.
So, is it a bestseller? I will tell you at this point, it's not. Hopefully, your readers will push it in that direction. And I've talked to people about that, Alfred, and they said, when they read about the emotional side of job loss, it's
Mm-hmm.
scary because
Yeah,
many people
it
they don't want
is.
to know that.
Mm-mm.
They oh, tell me how to write the perfect resume. Tell me how to
Mm-hmm.
interview. And I do all that in my career counseling practice,
Mm-hmm.
but there are plenty of books out there that address the perfect resume and acing the interview. Didn't find anything out there specific to what happens emotionally to you when you don't have a job.
Yeah. Like I said off camera, I brought this up on the last show, and we'll probably bring it up quite a few more times going forward. Um, at least now, today and tonight, another show. Uh, I found myself about 2 weeks ago on cruise control, I call it. A part-time gig, which I fell in love with doing, uh, involved transportation, which is the term I use for it. Others would know it by another name, but because of certain things involving with me losing my job, I'm not gonna name the company. Uh, and then also I found myself separated from the company, and I was angry because of the circumstances that it happened under. I pushed conversation after conversation through their chat system, through phone calls with representatives of the company, through the appeal process to get it back. I was so angry when it happened that I literally slept on my couch all night the first night. Woke up angry with the individual that triggered it happening. I mean, I'm like, I'm the guy that got good recommendations. I'm doing XYZ. Excuse me. And yes, I can be very brass at times off camera and on camera. But that's, and I attribute it to my personality. I'm getting better at it. But anyway, through it all, that thing festered in me. It ate away at me because I'm like, how in the can they do this to me? How can someone do this to me to cause this to happen when I've done the best I can do? So you said the emotional part. That's again another reason I said I want to bring you on the show because I have recently lived that. And sadly, I have lived that at least 3 times in my adult life. But this time it hit a different kind of way because I'm like, semi-retired, doing my thing, enjoying something, and boom. So and I'm thinking now, do you have you discovered that men react differently to job loss versus women?
Well, there is a slight difference in that. I think what they
Okay.
more of what they have in common in this country, and I've traveled all
Mm-hmm.
over the world,
Mm-hmm.
we tend to identify who we are with what we do.
Exactly. I was like, I'm a podcaster. I get to network with people. I get to talk to people in this part-time thing. I'm building my brand. I have fun with most folks, and I walk away with information and insights, and the banter goes back and forth, and that's pretty much who I am. Yeah.
Yeah. And that being said, when I go to other countries, now here, when you go
Hmm.
to a social event, one of the
Hmm.
first things people will ask you is, what do you do? Okay.
Exactly.
Yep. And what do you say if you're unemployed? They want to
Yeah.
run away from you. Okay. They don't want to even hear that this is what you're going through. And I think that's sad. In Europe, that's the last thing they would ask you is what do you do? They're more about where are you from, what do you, what are your likes, all of
Hmm.
that, which I wish we did more of. But I think that for both men and women, there is that sense of loss of identity. And we know that when there's a loss, we go through a grieving process.
Hmm.
Part of that is anger. Okay, when
Hmm.
we're grieving something, the second stage, according to Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, is we feel angry. Now, one
Hmm.
of the things that she doesn't identify that many of the people that I've worked with share is, look, I gave you how many years of my life? And this is how you treated me.
Yeah.
They feel betrayed. There's a strong sense of betrayal, and there's the source of that anger. So I do have a little exercise that I give my clients when they're there, and I did it myself because my transition from the work that I did in education into the work I do now was not a smooth one. From the
You
time
kidding me? You kidding me, right? Just kidding. I'm serious.
I
But go ahead.
know, because from the time I left my job in education till I received my first paying job was almost 2 years.
Wow.
So I know what it's like to be struggling in between. I
Mm.
know how hard that can be. And there are times, like you said, you just want to give up. There doesn't seem to be any hope for you. And it's really important to hold on to that. And that was part of what I addressed in the book that I wrote was the idea of, well, there are 5 aspects of it, and we'll go into that later. But it was really about looking at that experience and the anger that I held. So, what I have my clients do, and any of the people listening can do this little exercise, you write a letter, and you write a letter to the person or the business where you hold that anger and you don't hold anything in. You use every 4 letter word you've ever heard.
Mm.
You just rip into them. I hate
Mm.
you for what you did to me. I felt betrayed. You just go on and on with however long it takes to deal with that anger inside of you. Then, when I say to them, is so after you write the letter, you can go ahead and read it. You can do one of 2 things with it. You can take it out to a safe place. And I took mine out to the balcony of the condo where I lived
Mm.
and I lit a match to it. And
Mm.
I said, "Yeah, okay, I'm sending it out there and something better will come my way." Or you can put it in an envelope and say on the outside of the envelope, write to whom it may concern. You can choose to put a stamp on it or not. You don't put a return address and you put it in the mailbox.
Mm.
That is a way of sending out in both ways those negative emotions that are eating you up. And
Mm.
I've done this with people, and they feel such a sense of relief and freedom in doing this. Because what
Mm.
we do when we hold on to that anger, as you know, Alfred, is we're giving our power away. We're making
Mm.
that other person more powerful than we are, and they don't deserve it based on what they did. So this is a way for you to take back your power.
Mm.
And when they do it, they say, "Oh, It felt so good to release that. And if it doesn't quite work, then they're not done. They need to write another letter.
Mm,
Eventually, it passes and they can move on with their life.
mm.
Because,
Yeah, I ended up in the last communications with them with the entity, uh, stating that I may or may not pursue legal action. I may or may not do it. Reach out to our YouTube subscriber who gives people strategy or dealing with this particular company. I may or may not create a whole podcast episode with my own audience about it. And that's how I ended that by means of an email I sent out. And then they sent me a follow-up email, which I immediately deleted because I said I'm done. I guess it's the equivalent of you saying in a letter. I no longer responded to anything else after that because I felt a tad bit better not going back and forth with them anymore by saying what I may or may not do, leaving them to wonder, is he going to do something or not? Let's reach out to him one more time. And I'm like, nope, this is it. This is my closure. Final email, no more responses to nothing you send. Um, do I feel better now than it happened? Yeah. Was it easy getting to that point? No. Would I have gotten there faster if I put you on like a guest, like the first next week? Yeah. But think all things happen when they need to happen. Because
right.
yeah,
Yeah, you can't speed things up. They go in their own time. And
right.
the other thing that you did, Alfred, was you gave yourself choices. When we have choices, it keeps us from being a victim. And
Mm,
that is the worst space to be in, is feeling like a victim, because
mm,
that's about feeling powerless.
mm,
And it's about, like I said, taking back our power through the actions
mm,
we take.
mm. Good, good stuff. Good stuff. This show, because of the resource I use, it will create reels. AI, it's AI will create reels. I'm not a techie like that. I might get to some point being that way. It may, I may not. I'm not sweating it. Right now, I'm using the technology to do it. So they're gonna be short snippets of this show created on YouTube, and the snippets usually get more views than the actual show. That's why I was surprised today. Like, dang, this is my first. This is good. This is good energy. This is good energy. Seeing 13 real people pop up. They were there from some for a minute, some for a little bit longer. But to see this many people pop up, like, yeah. So that good energy, I'm saying, crosses over before and after. Um, just what you're talking about, what you're sharing, is definitely needed.
And those individuals who only stayed on for a minute, I wonder if the topic or the little that they heard didn't trigger something in them where they said, I'm not ready to deal with this yet. Okay. Now, so maybe they'll watch the
Well,
podcast.
yeah, several of them it triggered enough for them to speak and say hello, identify themselves. They just weren't there. They were like, "Hello." So I typed back, "Hello, thank you for coming up here with us." So yeah, it touched them some. But
It
anyway,
does.
others are still joining. Yeah,
Good,
we have
good.
another 35. We have another 25 minutes to go. So
See,
who knows?
yeah, who knows? And again, I figure that everyone who's meant to show up live will be here
Mhm,
live.
mhm.
And I don't worry
And
about numbers because,
well, I look at numbers because numbers guide me into how to present. I look at numbers after the fact, not during the live. Because after the fact, I know with this conversation here, the audio version of the show is going to spike. It's going to go way up, uh, and it's global in content. Like you said, I've never been to Europe. You live in Europe. Some of my most frequent listeners are in places like Ireland and other countries. So it can hit different for those folks because
yes,
you're
it
able to
is.
speak from being. It's hit different because you can speak from being there. You lived in those places.
You're right.
So yeah.
Now, the thing is, I just returned from Italy and France. And,
Okay.
and what I love to do is connect with people. And
Mm-hmm.
one of my gifts is people opening up to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was in Italy, they said, well, if you think it's bad in the US, let us see what it's like living in Italy. And then
Mm-hmm.
in France, it was the same thing, that the
Mm-hmm.
challenges that they're dealing with. So it seems like no matter where we are, the dynamics are not that different, and yet
Mm,
people are the same everywhere.
mm,
They all want the same thing. They want a standard of living that allows them to do what they love,
mm-hmm,
and also they need flexibility with that.
mm-hmm,
And so it was just amazing as I conversed with these individuals, shopkeepers, people who worked in the hotels. They were very open in the challenges that they have in their countries. And yes, I've been to Ireland. I was there
mm-hmm,
2 years ago visiting.
mm-hmm,
And again, it's connecting with people. And what
mm-hmm,
I find is, I said to someone, you know, if you wanted to make one improvement in the world, if you could eliminate politics, we'd all get along because we focus on more of how we're alike than unalike or
mm-hmm,
dislike. So, I mean, people are wonderful everywhere. And I'll talk to them about the work that they do and how did they get into it, because that's the nature of what I do. And it's
mm-hmm,
fascinating to hear their stories.
mm-hmm,
And different countries have different ways of looking at employment. I know
mm-hmm,
that when I was in the Scandinavian countries, their people are very well paid. Uh,
mm-hmm,
in fact, one gentleman who worked at the hotel in Copenhagen, we were talking. He worked at the front desk. On his salary, he could afford a Tesla.
wow.
Hmm.
On the at the front desk.
Front desk, yes.
Wow.
So, and when I spoke to a young lady who was a server in Oslo, Norway, she
Mm-hmm,
said, people here are paid very well. We don't work the same long hours that you do in the United States.
mm-hmm,
What I also observed was when workers came into that restaurant in the hotel, what
mm-hmm,
was one of the first things I saw them do? Hug each other.
mm,
That's how they greeted one another. And she
mm,
said, I love my job.
mm,
And I'm thinking, how many people who work that type of industry in the States can make that same statement?
mm-hmm.
So I think that, if we could share with one another what is working, it would be a lot more helpful to us than focusing on what's not working.
Well, that's a topic. I'm not gonna take a deep nose dive in because I feel strongly about what you just said. But I will say this, and it's my personal opinion. Um, Here in the United States, for as long as I know, we have been preconditioned, unless you get in that certain company or certain industry, to view employment as a thing that you have to do and not something that you should just go discover. It's not something that you have to do or that life gives to you, instead of being conditioned to go find something you love to do, have a way for it to reward you, or a company that you feel content in. I myself was in local government service for like 19 and a half years. Okay, retired from that. To find my last year in about 3 months, that supervisor was the best supervisor I had out of 19 years, because she didn't just conduct the Monday morning meeting with everybody as she was required to do. She brought in that human element of it. So sometimes she would crack jokes back and forth when we sit down, and people like, oh yeah, Bonita, you want us to go do this today? It's like, yeah, I'm in charge. I'm telling you go do this today. All right, well, I okay, whatever. But I'll see you later. At the end of the day, we come back in, we laugh and joke and we talking. So the drudgery part was overshadowed by her creating an environment on that team where we felt we weren't just part of a team. We were more like a family. I was only there, like I said, about 13, 14 months. They took me out to lunch, like I'd been there 20 years. Okay. But they said, this is what we do with everybody. No matter how long you were here, we take everyone out on their last week, because this is what this team does. And yeah, I just brought it up because of what you said about the people in Norway and places. They she created that welcoming spirit
They do.
in that place, and she created it in that whole facility for the whole municipality, the section we worked under, people knew that her name was Benita, and I call her by name. She created that thing for us on her team,
Mhm.
and
And
you trigger that memory based on what the story you share.
right. And the other thing is, I remember writing a paper as part of my doctoral program, and it was what employees look for.
Mm-hmm.
Now, employers believe that employees are focused on money. When
Mm-hmm.
when you ask employees what's important to them, recognition,
Mm-hmm.
to be valued as a person, as a
Mm-hmm.
contributor, even more so than what you make.
Mm-hmm.
Although that's important, granted, that
Mm-hmm.
you be paid commensurate with your worth, but
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, employers are missing that one.
Mm-hmm. I think
And I,
they're missing it a large way here in America.
yep.
I'm going to speak to this. They're missing it in a large way. Yes, we want to get paid, compensated for our value, but also to feel what you just said. But not, maybe I'm using the word, I don't like using the word feel so much, to be valued
Mhm.
for your contribution.
And I think for your listeners, I was telling you that for me, it was creativity and independence.
Mm-hmm.
And the position that I loved the most was the one where I had both of those. I
Mm.
literally created the job description based
Mm-hmm.
upon who I was as a person. And as a result, eventually I received an award for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking for your listeners,
Mm-hmm.
okay, think about what it is that you value. And when
Mm-hmm.
you're out looking for that next position,
Mm-hmm.
during that interview process or even vetting out a company before you apply, you want to find out where those values fit that company.
Mm.
So for me, being self employed, definitely at the top of that list is creativity and independence.
Mm.
I get to do what I love, which one of them is talking with people like you,
Mm-hmm.
to be creative, come up with my own way of doing my business.
Mm-hmm.
How am I going to advertise? How am I promoting myself? That's the creativity. So for your
Mm-hmm.
clients to have, or your listeners rather, to have them think about
Oh, you use
maybe,
the right word because I'm pause just I'm really brief so you don't lose your train of thought. Not saying that you will, but I know I lose mine easily. Uh, attended my first authors festival in Houston, Texas, about 3 weeks ago. Uh, myself and other authors feel that we were hoodwinked, so we took that hoodwinking feeling we had, we turned it into an opportunity to connect and network. And so now I have, I think, 4 people from that book festival coming on this show next year to promote their books, their websites, their counseling, their marketing, and yeah, uh, that thing.
and I can, it's interesting you would bring that up, Alfred, because I just came back from a conference in
Hmm.
Las Vegas, and it was a
Hmm.
4-day conference for writers.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
thought, well, that's perfect if you're interested in doing books. I
Hmm.
found when at the end of it that the focus was more on fiction than nonfiction.
Hmm.
And so, did I get everything that I wanted? No,
Hmm.
but I sure made connections.
Hmm.
That's one of the things that will be far more lasting of those connections. So this morning, I emailed one of the people that I met who was a presenter and told
Hmm.
her how much I enjoyed her presentation. And she
Hmm.
has a book. And I said, I'm going to order your book
Hmm.
because it's something that I can use
Hmm.
as a non
Yeah,
writer.
and that's another. There are. I have 2 grandkids, 8, 8 and 5. I remember sometimes. Uh, and I took majority of my sales. I'm laughing every time I think about it. I haven't delivered the books in them yet. They're sitting over in my other book shelf. But I took majority of my sales at that conference and purchased books for my grandkids. But also, it gave me the opportunity to to bring a children's author onto this show. which is geared for adults next year. But like you said, that part, and I did not delay uh, on my marketing sign for my book. There's a QR code. These people literally signed up on the spot. But it's got me to a different space of my grandkids. They have books, but now I'm gonna bring a presenter on here to to discuss the whole thing dealing with books and children books, especially African American authors who don't always get the recognition they need. But anyway, I parlayed off of it, pivoted off of that, what you just said. You take what seems to be a loss and turn it into a win.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that the other thing that your listeners probably already doing, take advantage of opportunities. Don't close the door on anything because you never
Mm,
know where it's going to lead, especially with
hmm
the people that you meet. I mean,
hmm
I don't know where this is all going to take me in terms of starting these conversations with people I've
hmm
met. Some of them have been ongoing. Some of
hmm
them have been going on for years. Others, you have a shorter shelf life, and that's
hmm
okay because we each learned what we needed to from those
hmm
transactions, and then we moved on with that information. So it's really what you're going to do with what you hear and see.
hmm
Yeah, how can you take that into what you do next? And again, it's really looking at what are your values? What is important to
hmm
you in the workplace? And sometimes I say to people, if you don't know where to start, write down every negative experience you've had at work and put that in a column. And if it was micromanaged, as, oh, I hated being micromanaged. Well, on the right side, what you're looking for is what we call autonomy, okay? The
hmm
freedom to make your own decisions. And
hmm
if you do that on that right side, it's going to describe what that next position will look like for you.
Okay.
And I will give you a little secret that I've been using. You know how everyone's talking about how afraid they are of AI,
hmm
and what it's going to do? I say to
hmm
my clients, take all that information that you've gathered on that right column, feed it into AI and say, tell me the jobs or the occupations that include. And then you write all of those in there, okay, in the prompt. And you would be surprised at what AI will do.
hmm
People will say, I never realized that that was
hmm
something that I could pursue that's either similar to what I do or even very
hmm
different. And that's what we call transferable skills.
And I'm glad you mentioned what you just mentioned because I think it was my last guest um, highlighted that, or maybe it was a podcast I was listening to about AI, even though people want to believe it's limitless, it has its limits.
It does.
And what you just said will help people to identify the limits thereof, where there's a void that you can feel physically. Because now, oh, wow, I can do this over here. Yeah. And you just said that, and I'm just kind of putting in my own words because it hit me a certain way when that individual said that. Because I'm
Mhm.
about to believe, it had no, it doesn't. You eliminate it, do what you follow your process, you end up with what it can't do, and then you in a space, you have opportunity.
So the only thing is, when I do that, Alfred, those exercises, guess what
Hmm
they tell me I should be doing?
What you doing now?
What I'm doing now. That's right. Doesn't matter which one I take. They said, you need to be a coach. And I thought, well, you're not telling me what I don't already know. It only validates. So that's a
Right.
nice feeling to have that you're on the right track. And, we're never on the wrong track in life.
Why you
It's
say it like that?
because I don't think there are any accidents in the world. I think
Hmm
everything that we experience is part of what I refer to as a life plan.
Okay.
Now, we also have free will. Okay.
hmm
If someone was to come up to you and say, well, I'm a psychic, and on such and such a date, you're going to meet the partner of your dreams. Okay.
hmm
Well, on that date, you could choose to do something else. That's your free
hmm
will. and it won't
Mm-hmm.
turn out. Now you can say, see, they don't know what they're talking about. No, I exercised my free will to take me in a slightly different direction, which is for
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason the path that I'm supposed to be on right now.
Mm-hmm.
And it really gives a sense of relief to know
Mm-hmm.
that everything's going to be just fine.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a belief that I have. I was just talking to my partner today about the fact that I've had people come up to me and say, I don't like being around you. Oh, you're too positive. You're too much of a Pollyanna. And I thought, well, what's my alternative? I've played the victim already in my life, and that didn't get me anywhere. So why not be positive?
Yeah. And one thing about this show is people see me on the replay on live. I'm bouncing back and forth, looking at my phone, bringing up things, especially when a guest hits a certain thing. And you just hit something for me. It's a book that I have not began to listen to. It's probably a good time to listen to it now. Uh, I discovered it on another podcast I was listening to because you just said what you said about not being liked. The book is actually, the title of the book is The Courage to be Disliked by Kishiro Kasimi or something like that.
Okay.
So I'm gonna start listening to that book. I've looked at the title, looked over it. I'm like, get your title. There's some depth to that. And then you just highlighted some of the things in the title, associated with the title of that book. So go back again, if you don't mind, in this moment to reiterate what you said about that comfortable space you're in as to whether you're liked or not liked. If you don't mind
Well,
revisiting it for me.
it took a long time, Alfred, for me to get to that space in my life. And I just turned 77 last week.
You how old? Come on now.
77.
Nah. No, you're
Yeah.
not.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
you're not.
So
I
my,
thought you, but I was, no, you couldn't have been a day over 70, man. I'm 63.
well,
Ah,
that's a gift.
okay. I
So,
guess, yeah, I guess it's a
so
gift, but also it could contribute to your mindset too.
oh,
Because they
that's
said
it. That's
different,
a big part of it. Yeah, I don't think old. Okay. I
77 years old.
Yes. And the thing is, at my
Mm,
age, frankly, I don't want everyone to like me because then that gives me the freedom to not like everybody else. And believe me, I've met a number of people lately, and I thought, no, you're not going to be on my best friend list. Sorry. And then, and like I said, with this one woman where I was in signing in the desk at Las Vegas, said,
uh,
I want to hang out with you guys. I mean, what a compliment that is.
yeah.
And I do a video on LinkedIn and Facebook every Wednesday,
Hmm.
and the topic of this one is the difference between a skill and a gift. And I really never thought about it until I went to this conference and was having a
Hmm.
conversation with a young lady. And I said, a skill is a learned behavior
Hmm.
related to a task. So, like
Hmm.
riding a bicycle, okay?
Hmm.
And skills can be improved upon, right?
Hmm.
I mean, when I first got on the bicycle, what was the first thing I did? I fell off the bicycle
Hmm. Yeah.
until I learned how to balance. And then it
Hmm.
became second nature. But there are people who take that to another level. I mean, they're involved in all kinds of sports activities involving bicycles.
Hmm.
Whereas a gift, and generally you can remember starting that skill. I still remember the first time I ever rode a bike or tried to ride.
Hmm.
But with a
Hmm.
gift, it is something that is given to you.
Hmm.
And it doesn't need to be improved. It's just who you are. So I
Hmm.
said, my connecting to people without consciously saying, hey, would you like to talk? We just start a conversation. And
Hmm.
when I was in Paris last month, a woman came up to us, never met her before. First thing out of her mouth is, it's my new uncle's. And I said, you're a little too close in age for me to be your uncle. She said, how about my new brothers? She said, I want to hang out with you. And we constantly are getting that I want to hang out with you message. That's a gift. And I don't think we
Ah,
look at what our gifts are. So for you,
the-
Al, what would your gift be that
what
you,
we're doing now, one of my gifts is what we're doing now.
okay?
Uh, my mother never met a stranger. She would be that person. I mean, one of my favorite stories is the first time I went to live with her in the early '80s in a little small town, rural community, and we were at a McDonald's, and this guy came up to me and said like, and then introduce me to your sister. I said, that's not my sister, that's my mother, and she's married. So, but and then I mean, even today with her being dead and gone as long as she's been, uh, in my small town I grew up in, I never fully understood her impact until Facebook came about. And I'll post her photo on her birthday, which is the day after mine, on September 22nd. She's September 23rd. And people were RIP, rest in peace, Miss Dot, as they called her, and she impacted so many others in that small town because she never met a stranger in an adult life as well. And so you say, what is my gift? A long way of going about it? Yeah. Talking to people, networking, having fun with people. Uh, this we're about 46 minutes into this, and I have not even said one thing about my wife. Because usually by now,
Okay.
I talk more about her on camera than I do on camera and in settings like this or in person. As I'm working on doing better to her personally, because that's where I'm at. But all said and done, we have been on road trips, hanging out in parks. And she carries a similar. It's like a tag team thing. Like you say, y'all were supposed to be uncles. We just standing there on the waterfront, and the lady came up telling us her whole life story, and like, huh? And then we're back and forth in the banter, back and forth, and yeah. So in my case, when I allow that freedom, it's a dual effect. It's a dual effect. Uh, and you want to ask me another one of my gifts is you, taking my breathing medication before I get on the show. But that's another story. I'm not always the best person for myself. Uh, and now I'm discovering my gift. One of my gifts is write. It's getting easier for me to write content and to revise content. Currently, I'm working on a writers group, which I haven't led in a very long time. And the two of us attended an event this morning. I shut my mouth up long enough to hear her basically say to me, it's good that you want to pivot and tell people what you did back then when you were associated with this organization back then. But think about where you're at now and how to move. And that's why if I got on the show, I was almost really late getting on the show with you because I was still editing the bio of that writers network. Um, again, one of my gifts. Yes, for one, I gave you two. Uh,
Well, I'm going to
but I,
take
but but I
I'm going
love
to
both of those gifts though.
okay. I'm going to take you back through that. If we look at a skill, okay, is a learned behavior
Hmm.
that can be improved upon.
Hmm.
Would you say that your writing is more of a skill or a gift? Because you are telling me that it's a process for you, that where you began with it has moved forward in terms of a strength for you. Would that be
Hmm.
more? And with a gift, it's something that's always been present in your life, like with your mother
Yeah.
connecting.
Hmm. Hmm. The writing is is more of a skill when it's coming to me working on the improvement side of it because I started out originally as a Google blogger and a
Okay.
WordPress blogger. However, now, yeah, I'm gonna leave it as a skill because my gift is the oratory,
Okay, there
the
you
free
go.
flow,
Yep.
the free flow. Um,
Okay.
so the writing is the mechanics of the oratory. It's the foundational part.
Hmm.
Um, when this show first launched 7 years ago, I would spend up to an hour or 2 hours creating one episode just for myself before I even start bringing guests on. Now I'm having guests on the show. I can create content in less than 30 minutes without AI. Once I have the the back bio and I can process it through my mind. Yeah, there's a little bit of editing into it that don't pop on the screen. But yeah, the writing is a skill that I'm continuing to improve upon because it's reducing my labor. But the
Right.
gift is when someone gets on the show like you today, I say to you off camera, this is pretty much a free flow conversation. We don't go X, Y, Z. We just talk, have fun with it. Because I know my audience don't mind a heavy topic, but they want it to be enjoyable. Like you talked about place of employment, knowing how you want to work. We could sit and talk about the technical aspects of losing a job and a bounce back all day long and all of that. But if you don't have a desire to really change emotionally and mentally and spiritually, the technical stuff, in my opinion, don't matter. Don't matter.
Exactly. Yeah. But I want to get back to the content of the book and how it
Mm-hmm.
applies to what we've been talking about today.
Mm-hmm.
So in talking with these people who were out of work, I
Mm-hmm.
identified 5 areas, okay,
Mm-hmm.
that were emotionally based.
Mm-hmm.
And I created content and exercises to help with that. So
Mm-hmm.
the first area was self-confidence, because
Mm-hmm.
when you lose your job, it is a blow to your self-confidence.
Definitely.
Yep.
Definitely. 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 Definitely.
Again, it's our identity.
Anger,
Right.
depression, frustration,
Right.
why me, all that junk
Yep.
stuff.
So the next section was on perseverance, the importance of sticking with it. Okay. And then there were exercises that reflected that. The next one was clearly something we've been describing in today's podcast: acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
You can scream and yell and everything else. It's not going to change the fact that you're now without a job. So,
Mm-mm.
some techniques that you can use to work through that. And then the next one is resilience, the ability to bounce back in spite of adversity. Because it would be wonderful if every application you submitted resulted in a job offer.
Yeah, I had a couple rejections.
Oh, yes. And it's learning to bounce back from those rejections and not take them personally. I found that one job that I thought I was perfectly fitted for, I was didn't even make it to the first round of interviews. Found out
Mm,
later through an inside source, they had already identified someone internally for the job.
mm,
So there it is.
mm.
Okay, that happens many times. And then finally, commitment. How committed are you to having that next position?
Mm,
And what will motivate you to get up in the morning and keep moving forward until that
mm,
job offer comes through? And there will
mm,
be one. And certainly, I think if you use the AI approach, you may
mm,
come up with options you never thought of before then, and,
mm,
and say, oh, gee, I wonder who I might know using my network. That's the other big piece of it,
mm,
who could give me some insights as to what's going on in this company and how I might contribute to being the solution rather than a problem. I mean, that's why
mm,
people are hired. They're hired to be solutions. So if
mm,
you're solution oriented, you've got a leg up.
mm,
And think about, okay, I'm doing my research on this company. Oh, they seem to be having problems with negotiating with foreign partners. Hey, I've got experience with that. I have connections in other countries. I could be a great asset to this company. And that's what
mm.
you would negotiate with them.
Yeah, it stares me. One thing on my show now that stares me in the face the entire time, and I often fail to mention that. There's a QR code on the screen. So I'm bringing it up now,
Hmm.
in line with what David just said. If you but get a secondary to please get a secondary device, scan the QR code. It will take you to my link tree. On my link tree, it requires you to become a subscriber. mm, Those who are catching this show to my YouTube channel. The 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 value of becoming a subscriber, number one, uh, in my mind, you become a part, become a owner in this journey of mine. Life is about more than living. You're not just a casual person going by because as a subscriber, turn your notifications on. YouTube's gonna alert you when I'm going live. Number two, with that QR code, you get an option of buying my wonderful book. Um, and if you order it Amazon or somewhere where you get the paperback form of it, there's 3 pages of mental health resources to help individuals who have been through some traumatic things in life. Uh, I'm pivoting to this side of things because of what David just said. Uh, it, those two things alone will help you to explore your value in yourself and who you are and what you can bring to a company beyond just seeing a job application and not determining where you fit. Those are things you can plug into AI, I believe, as he talked about, to help you to identify where you're at. Because there may be some things on the job that you're looking at that may cause a trigger moment for you. You don't need to be there. But if you got my book, you get some mental health resources there as well. Um, and if you are a subscriber, then according to what I have learned, you can download YouTube or whatever and replay the stuff over again. Um, you catch the audio form of this. You can get a transcript of it on Spotify, I believe. So I'm bringing these things to say that everyone who's listened today, everyone who will listen afterwards, this is not a one all be all. This is something you can carry with you from Dr. David Petrovay. Uh, so click the QR code, scan it, make sure you can carry this with you everywhere. Uh, this is a game changing, life changing stuff today. Uh, I appreciate this gentleman coming on my show. And according to last time I checked, it was like 3 months ago he requested to be up here. So it's been a journey, but we're
It
here.
has been. Yes, I just read the sorry, we have to cancel our podcast and hopefully we'll reschedule. And here it is. Always perfect timing, Alfred.
Always perfect timing.
Always.
Uh, Now, since for the last 3 or 4 people that came up here, we've got lost in the sauce, as I call it. Good conversation, personal points, business points, and so we're entering an hour now. And so I'm gonna let Dr. David Petrovay close us out, and then I'm gonna speak to him briefly off camera and get ready for my next guest. By the way, y'all, since this was a two for one day type deal today, please come back. I invite you back tonight, and I'm not stealing nothing from Dr. David. But I'm inviting you back tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time as I scroll down. Woo! I keep getting these heavy hitters. And this individual has rebooked several times as well. She was supposed to be up here last week, but her Wi-Fi went out. And she let me know I can't do it now. Can you give me another day? So I squeezed her in. And Blanca Rodriguez will be on tonight at 7:30 p.m. And our topic then is the healer within. Her quote, she says, wounded healers are people whose painful experiences enable them to help others. My mission is to improve the quality of lives one soul at a time. So I think this would be a great way to pivot off of what David's talking about today. That we're talking about the healer within. Take this to another level from what he's talking about. Because his book addresses the emotional side of job loss. Really, it's the healer within, how you can navigate. I
Yes.
can't say better than what he said himself today. So I'm gonna let him close it out. Since he said yes to that comment, I'm shutting up. Let him build up on that yes. And then I'm gonna take him off camera, y'all. Yeah. Go
So
ahead, Daddy.
my final words are, and I wrote this down, was, that old saying about when life hands you lemons, make lemonade.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
When life hands you lemons, it's always lemonade. Okay? There's always the good side to it.
You
You
know
can
what?
go,
You're so right. My God, you're right.
yeah,
That's either sweetened lemonade or unsweetened lemonade. It's still
that's
lemonade.
right. That's right. It's always lemonade. And it's how
Mm-mm.
you focus. You can focus on the sour or the sweet.
But it's still lemonade.
It's still lemonade. That's right.
Wow. I should have known. Should have known you'd be one of those guests. I should have known you'd be one of those guests. And I knew he was 77 years old. But I should have known you'd be one of those guests. Mm. Said it again, no matter how
Oh,
life serves you lemons.
when life gets serves you lemons, it's always lemonade.
Mm-mm-mm. Is there anything else you want to add? Because I'm like, okay. Anything else you want to say? That's it. That's it.
Yep,
Is that it?
that is it.
All right. I'm gonna take your camera and bring you back, and we have a short conversation in about another minute or
Okay,
so. Thank you for coming on.
my pleasure.
And I'll see you in a little bit. All right. Thank you again for catching another episode of Life is About More Than Living. Scan the QR code. Let's get connected, y'all. That means my link tree and to all my live viewers and guests that came on today. Thank you again. Catching us on YouTube. Have an amazing evening.